Cann River is a town in far East Gippsland that's halfway between Orbost and Mallacoota. If you look at the fire progression maps, we're the little unburnt area that as the time goes on slowly gets smaller and smaller. Cann River's surrounded by bush, and we're well aware that that's where we live, and the potential for bushfires, given the seasons that we'd had and the weather that we'd had, it was only a matter of time until something happened. Unfortunately, it was probably the worst event that could have happened. We didn't have any active fires in our area, but the weather conditions, everyone was on high alert, and it was expected that was going to kick off. The Wingen fire kicked off to our east, which eventually was the fire that went through Mallacoota, and we had the Goongra fire burning to our west. At the time, all we knew is we had fire all around us. I've been stationed at Cann River for 3 years now. During the 2019-2020 bushfires, I was the only member stationed at the Cann River Police Station. In the lead up to the bushfires, there was some extra police members being sent to Cann River. Half of them were meant to go to Mallacoota and half were meant to stay here to assist. Unfortunately, the Wingen fire had impacted the Princess Highway and they weren't able to continue on to Mallacoota. I don't think they or even anyone else expected that they were probably going to end up in the middle of one of the worst fires we've seen in this area. On the 30th, I remember we'd spent the day implementing the Cann River Local Incident Management Plan, referred to as the LIMP plan, which involves setting up the school with all the hoses and collar tanks and local CFA tankers there. I sort of noticed that our CFA members, to the amount of hoses, wasn't going to be enough of them to man all the hoses, so thankfully some of the young police officers that were sent up here from Melbourne or other regions had some CFA experience, and they actually ran some impromptu lessons on how to use a fire hose and how to defend the school should we have been impacted by the fire. On the night of the 30th, I went home to get some sleep, having been sort of up all day doing preparations for the Cann River town, and lying in bed trying to sleep and hearing distant thunder, starting to see some flashes of lightning and thinking that's not a sort of good sign. The emergency app on my phone started going off, and the new spot fires started coming up on the emergency app, and they got closer and closer this way, and then I got a phone call from Senior Sergeant Brad Johnson, who was one of the Melbourne police officers that was in here that had arrived the previous day, basically saying it was time to go to the school and sort of bunker down. And I remember coming out from behind the police station where my house is and seeing the red glow all around town. You could see flames sort of in the air, and at the time I believe we were going to be impacted. The 23 police that had come to town were staying in the motels, but there was no power in the motels and it was very, very hot, so a lot were parked on the grass here in their police cars with their air conditioner running, actually asleep in their cars. So I had to knock on a couple of windows and wake people up. We moved down to the school, and towards 100 people sort of starting to gather at the school. I think we ended up with about 150. We were completely surrounded by fire. We weren't getting a lot of updates, and they didn't really know what the fire was doing. Everyone was quite nervous, being a local and knowing a lot of the residents. I put on a hard face, but I was quite nervous and quite scared about what was potentially going to happen as well. Had to have faith in the community LIMP plan. If the town was going to be impacted, that the school was defendable in the event of a fire. On the 31st, estimated, I don't know the exact time, around 8 or 9 a.m. It was still dark here. It was a cool change. It was very cool. I recall it was actually cold. There was some muddy rain sort of fell. The fire was still around us, but the major threat had eased a little for a short time, and the Forest Fire Management and local contractors had put containment lines around the town. I was hugging people, being hugged by people, which I never thought I'd ever cop a hug off. That's when the community spirit sort of really kicked in, and one of the local cafes, Relics, so they basically put their hand up and said, we'll cater all the food. So they went and got their stuff and took them down to the school and started cooking for the community and all the emergency services that were in town. The kids were outside, some were playing footy with the Melbourne coppers that were here, and just a good sense of community spirit. Really proud of how the community sort of dealt with the situation, and they listened to directions and they did what we needed, and they offered assistance where required, and everybody chipped in and everybody wanted to help and everybody wanted to do what they could. Local contractors, it was their actions that probably prevented the fire from encroaching in town, and the local emergency services, including the DELP, CFA, our Bush Nursing Centre down the road, the local SES, the work they did for the community in relation to fighting the fire and the relief and recovery efforts afterwards was phenomenal. In the days before, me and my wife initiated our personal fire plan, and then my wife and kids had gone up to the south coast of New South Wales for the day. They didn't come back for another 4 weeks because I rang her and I told her to stay. After the fire, we were completely cut off, so I wasn't going anywhere, and you're here to do your job and protect the community, and I basically just worked what I had to work, and the fire didn't stop, so there wasn't really an ability to rest sort of until a couple of weeks on. I got out of here for a couple of days and got reunited with my family up on the coast. I went up there with the army. It was time for a rest for me, and I'd done some big days and long hours.
Hey buddy, happy birthday mate.
Just really want to thank all the VicPol members that came during the incident, particularly the 23 members that were here. They all were incredible and stepped up and did what they had to do and did what they had to do to protect the people of the town and support the community at the school. As a town, we're thankful for having them guys here and for stepping up in a town that a lot of them didn't even know where it was until they arrived here the previous day. And then members that came in the weeks after to assist the town and provide relief and support to the town was phenomenal, and we'll be forever grateful here as a community. I act as a local. I think you've got to be here a long time before you're classed as a local. I feel the community has embraced us moving here, me and my family, and we love it. We wouldn't wish to be anywhere else.